piece you're hearing is Four Seasons. This is the composition that jumps to my mind whenever Antonio Vivaldi is brought up. Baroque Music, a website devoted to classical biography of composers, says that Vivaldi composed this piece in Amsterdam in 1725. Vaughan, another classical biography website, calls Vivaldi a fine and memorable composer who brought the strings to life. I truly enjoy Vivaldi's heartwarming music. It is my great pleasure and honor to commemorate the Venetian composer, Antonio Vivaldi. Master Musicians Vivaldi by Michael Talbot says that Antonio Lucio Vivaldi was born on March 4th, 1678 in the Republic of Venice, Venice. The son of a barber turned professional violinist, Vivaldi received his musical education from a young age when his father, Giovanni, would tour Venice giving professional violin lessons, Talbot says. Vivaldi was an ordained Venetian priest. According to Antonio Vivaldi's biography website, although he was averse to religious services and Mass as a youth, he was ordained as a Venetian cleric, as they were known, in 1703 at the age of 25. His biography speculates that perhaps the reason Vivaldi joined the church was to pay for schooling and further his musical education, as he came from a very poor family. One nickname that he acquired upon his ordination was El Prete Rosso, or the Red Priest, on account of his flaming shock of red hair. Vivaldi was plagued by many health problems, even in his youth. Baroque music points out that his chronic shortness of breath prevented him from mastering wind instruments, even as his violin skills sharpened. The website then speculates that some believe the illness was simulated, saying that there were times that Vivaldi was known to take a break from the altar to jot down a musical idea in the sacristy. Okay, so I've told you about the personal life of Vivaldi, how he fell in love with music and was a priest at the same time, and even a little bit about how he looked. So what about his famous operas and compositions? Baroque music tells us that Vivaldi was employed for most of his life by the Ospedale della Pieta, an orphanage for young girls. The Ospedale della Pieta was recognized as the finest of the four orphanages in Venice, and here Vivaldi was commissioned as a violin teacher in 1703, just after his ordination. This Ospedale, as it was known, was an orphanage, but it was in fact home for the illicit female offsprings of wealthy noblemen whose anonymous donations ensured that their daughters lived lives of extravagance. Until 1709, Vivaldi taught here when he took a 2-year hiatus to compose operas at the Teatro St. Angelo, returning to the Ospedale della Pieta in 1711, according to several biographies. Talbot tells us about how Vivaldi became an accomplished composer in his later years. The author says in 1711, when Vivaldi was 33, 12 concertos he had written were published in Amsterdam by music publisher S.D. and Rogers under the title El Estro Armonico, or Harmonic Inspiration. According to Vivaldi's biography, the next few years of his life would be very busy with him producing several operas and his great first oratio, Juditha Triumphans de Victis Holofins Barbaria, which described the very recent victory of the Christian Venetians over the Turkish barbarians. At this point in his life, Vivaldi began to accept commissions from foreign rulers. Talbot says French King Louis XV commissioned Vivaldi for a serenade. Vaughan points out that Charles VI, Holy Roman Emperor, doted greatly on Vivaldi, inviting him to Austria to come and live at his palace. It is around this time period, from 1720 onward, that is when most of Vivaldi's definitive compositions were produced, Baroque music states. The website has a list of most of the songs Antonio Vivaldi ever composed, and it is overwhelming. His list of sacred works alone are numerous, and the site notes that Vivaldi wrote hundreds of concerti for various instruments, opting only to list some. In conclusion, Antonio Vivaldi was a brilliant composer who shows what one with talent can do when able to focus completely and study something from a young age. I find it amazing that for most of his life, Vivaldi taught violin to orphan women. I hope my commemoration has shown you what type of life this musical master led and helped you to appreciate some of his compositions. For all he did and how much joy he brought to countless people, Vivaldi was not celebrated in death. He died in poverty and was buried in an unmarked grave. Truly an ironic end for someone so iconic in the world of classical. His music will live forever.